ISE system certificates is a topic that must be well understood before deciding on the type of certificate that will be needed in an ISE deployment. That is why I will be exploring this topic theoretically before proceeding to the configuration aspect. Cisco ISE system certificates are certificates that identifies a Cisco ISE node to other nodes in a multi-node deployment and to client applications such as client browsers, .1x supplicants, and so forth. The most used ISE system certificates are IP authentication, admin, and portal certificates. Whenever ISE is installed, it generates two default self-signed certificates. One is dedicated for IP authentication, admin, portal, and Radius DTLS usage, while the other is dedicated for SAML usage. In a lab environment, you can decide to use the default self-signed certificate for IP authentication, admin, portal, and Radius DTLS. But in a production environment, it is recommended to make use of an enterprise or trusted CA signed certificate. Self-signed certificate should never be used in production. Admin certificate is a server certificate used to authenticate or secure communication with ISE admin portal. It is also used to establish trust relationship and secure communication between ISE nodes in a multi-node deployment. Whenever you browse to ISE GUI on an endpoint, just like other HTTPS server, ISE will present its certificate to the client browser. If the client trusts the certificate, a TLS tunnel will be formed. The client will then send the required login credentials and further requests or response via the established tunnel. If the client did not trust the certificate, a warning will be displayed on the browser, which in most cases will give the user the privilege of accepting the risk and proceed to establish secure communication with the server using the untrusted certificate. But if the client did not trust the certificate and not willing to accept the risk, then the HTTPS connection to ISE will be terminated. IP authentication certificate is a server certificate used for establishing TLS tunnel, which is needed by IP protocols for secure credential exchange. IP protocols uses TLS to secure credential exchange between a .1x endpoint or supplicant and the Radius server. If the endpoint trusts the Radius server certificate, TLS tunnel will be established between the .1x endpoint and ISE. The TLS tunnel will then be used for secure credential exchange. If the server certificate is not trusted by the .1x endpoint, TLS tunnel will not be formed with ISE. Therefore, client credentials will not be sent. That means .1x authentication will not be successful. Radius DTLS certificate is a server certificate used for Radius DTLS authentication. Radius DTLS is used for encrypting Radius traffic between a network access device and Radius DTLS server, which in our case is ISE. Portal certificate refers to the server certificate used to secure communication with all Cisco ISE web or end-user portals. Examples of end-user portals are guest or central web authentication portal, sponsor portal, my devices portal, and so on. PS-Grid certificate is a client-server certificate used for establishing secure communication between PS-Grid client and server. Security Assertion Markup Language certificate is used to secure communication between ISE and SAML identity provider. SAML is an open standard for exchanging authentication and authorization data between an identity provider and a service provider. A certificate designated for SAML use cannot be used for any other service, such as IP authentication, admin, portal, etc.